Microsoft Identity and Access Administrator South Carolina 300 exam updated dumps are the best material for you to study all the related topics. Share some updated Microsoft South Carolina 300 dumps below. 1. You have an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD tenant named contoso.com. All users who run applications registered in Azure AD are subject to conditional access policies. You need to prevent the users from using legacy authentication. What should you include in the conditional access policies to filter out legacy authentication attempts? A Cloud Apps or Actions condition. B. A user risk condition. C. A client apps condition. D. A sign-in risk condition. 2. You have a Microsoft 365 subscription that user Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps and Yammer. You need prevent users from signing in to Yammer from high-risk locations. What should you do in the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps portal? A. Create an access policy. B. Create an activity policy. C. Unsanction Yammer. D. Create an anomaly detection policy. 3. You have a Microsoft Exchange organization that uses an SMTP address space of contoso.com. Several users use their contoso.com email address for self-service sign-up to Azure Active Directory, Azure AD. You gain global administrator privileges to the Azure AD tenant that contains the self-signed users. You need to prevent the users from creating user accounts in the contoso.com Azure AD tenant for self-service sign-up to Microsoft 365 services. Which PowerShell CMDlet should you run? A. Set MSOL company settings. B. Set MSOL domain federation settings. C. Update MSOL federated domain. D. Set MSOL domain. 4. You have 2,500 users who are assigned Microsoft Office 365 Enterprise E3 licenses. The licenses are assigned to individual users. From the groups blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center, you assign Microsoft 365 Enterprise E5 licenses to the users. You need to remove the Office 365 Enterprise E3 licenses from the users by using the least amount of administrative effort. What should you use? A. The Identity Governance blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. B. The Set Azure Ad User CMDlet. C. The Licenses blade in the Azure Active Directory Admin Center. D. The Set Windows Product Key CMDlet. 5. You have a Microsoft 365 subscription that contains a user named User1. User1 is eligible for the Application Administrator role. User1 needs to configure a new connector group for an application proxy. What should you do to activate the role for User1? A. The Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps portal. B. The Microsoft 365 Admin Center. C. The Azure Active Directory Admin Center. D. The Microsoft 365 Defender portal. 6. You have an Azure AD tenant named Contoso that contains a Terms of Use, to you, named Terms1 and an access package. Contoso users collaborate with an external organization named Fabricam. Fabricam users must accept Terms1 before being allowed to use the access package. You need to identify which users accepted or declined Terms1. What should you use? A. Provisioning logs. B. The Usage and Insights report. C. Sign-in logs. D. Audit logs. 7. You have an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD tenant named Contoso.com. You need to ensure that Azure AD external identities pricing is based on monthly active users, MAU. What should you configure? A. An access review. B. The terms or use. C. A linked subscription. D. A user flow. 8. Your network contains an Active Directory forest named Contoso.com that is linked to an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD tenant named Contoso.com by using Azure AD Connect. You need to prevent the synchronization of users who have the extension attribute 15 attribute set to NoSync. What should you do in Azure AD Connect? A. Create an inbound synchronization rule for the Windows Azure Active Directory connector. B. Configure a full import run profile. C. Create an inbound synchronization rule for the Active Directory Domain Services connector. D. Configure an export run profile. 9. You have a Microsoft 365 subscription that contains a user named User1. You need to ensure that User1 can create access reviews for Azure AD roles. The solution must use the principle of least privilege. Which role should you assign to User1? A. Privileged role administrator. B. Identify governance administrator. C. User administrator. D. User access administrate. 10. You create a new Microsoft 365 E5 tenant. You need to ensure that when users connect to the Microsoft 365 portal from an anonymous IP address, they are prompted to use multi-factor authentication, MFA. What should you configure? A. A sign-in risk policy. B. A user risk policy. C. An MFA registration policy.